So if there's only an arrest, that's one. It can't equal two, which is Miranda. It has to be 1 + 1. And so with that, for example, the Fourth Amendment I was speaking about, Miranda, which affects us, even though Ernesto Miranda was out of Arizona, that case affects us in every state in the U.S. And so I wanted to bring those type of issues, especially to the teens. I started gearing into teens, but then I opened it up to teens, adults, everyone, because parents would come and say, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. A lot of things that, for me, because I know about it, it's basic, but it's something that people don't know.
So what's some of the things that, when you said people didn't know about it, like what's some of the things that people can learn if they attend one of the workshops?
Oh yeah, definitely. So like the Miranda example that I gave, they will learn about, we started touching on what can police officers do if they have certain types of warrants. So for example, there's a difference between an arrest warrant and a search warrant. If an officer has an arrest warrant, that means they're coming to search for a person, not to search through the drawers, on the, those type of areas.
So it's basically just like breaking it down for
Yes.
people that never, whether you didn't get the chance to learn about it,
Yes.
or whether you just didn't know about it, or you
Yes.
forgot about it, whatever. It's just giving people a chance to
learn. It's being proactive, because what I see in the courtroom is a lot of people come to court for situations that they could have avoided. And so if they knew about these situations, they probably wouldn't be in court and learning about these things that I'm talking about in the community for the first time in court. And so another segment that I do, I call it The Company You Keep. And it's really all about judicial discretion and sentencing guidelines. Here in Georgia, we have certain crimes where the judge has no discretion. So discretion is, so let's say for example, someone commits a burglary for the first time. The sentence for burglary in Georgia is 1 to 20 years. That judge can say, okay, I've heard the evidence. It's a 17-year-old. He's made a mistake. I'm going to give him a second chance. I'm going to give him probation. I'll give him community service. He'll pay a fine. 5 years probation, for example, is not an extreme sentence for a first-time offender for burglary. But a crime like armed robbery in Georgia, I've seen 17-year-olds that there's no discretion that the judge can give, because in Georgia it's a mandatory 10-year minimum. Mandatory. And so if that child that's 17 goes to prison October 30th, 2015, they're getting out October 30th, 2025, 10 years. And there's no mom is crying, family is crying, there's no discretion. And so a lot of juveniles and adults don't know that something as simple as having a replica. I could have a BB gun spray painted black and it's not a real gun. That can still get me an armed robbery charge because it's a weapon or a replica, meaning a fake. And so most juveniles don't know that. Most parents don't know that. And then the judge has no discretion to say, I'm going to give this 17-year-old, 18-year-old, 19-year-old a chance because the law says this is mandatory. Yeah. So those are some of the things that I talk about, and we schedule them typically for an hour, and they usually go longer because there's so many questions that come up that for me is common because this is what I do.
You know what you're talking about. But for the average,
for the community.
But that's not a good thing though, because we're all citizens. We should all know the law. Like we should all know.
Everybody knows study.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not about studying, but you still have to be informed on what can directly affect you.
But most
you
people
want to know, like
that's your job to do that.
Yeah, but most people that know the law have studied it. You know, they didn't. It wasn't just given to them. Like they didn't just,
But
walk up. The
point I'm saying, we should all know the law.
And that's exactly why I'm doing these forums, to educate the community, because I'm living in the community with my wife, my kids, and so if everyone can know what the laws are, then we could probably have a more harmonious society. One of the things that I do outside of teaching, to add to that, I'm also a DUI and alcohol and drug risk reduction instructor for the Department of Driver Services. Department of Driver Services. So what I do is I do the 20-hour course that's ordered by the judge and by law, where someone's charged with a DUI, some drug offenses, and they have to go to a 20-hour course. So I'm contracted by the Department of Driver Services. And again, it's all about educating people. You know, at the end of the day, I've seen people with good representation, right? Good representation in court, and I've seen people with bad representation. And it all comes down to, I think you said it, okay, not everyone is a lawyer or studies the law, but I'm giving these seminars where it's open to the public. people can come out and learn about the law, not just for themselves, but for their children. We just had a town hall this Tuesday at Point South Middle School. We had a good friend of mine, Leon Kendall, he's a U.S. Marshal here in Atlanta. We had Herman Oglesby, who's one of the assistant directors at the Martha Glaze Youth Detention Center out in Lovejoy, and he came out. You know, we had a good response because when people get this information, they're now empowered and they can share it with others.
Yeah, I agree, because I feel like that's where, because it's always like a argument about, you know, like for instance, the clip that's going viral with the police officer and the girl in school. So it's always a battle of like, oh well, they should teach their kids how to act, and then it's a thing. But on the flip side, it's like oh well, you know, people in authority, they should know how to, you know, to deal with children,
Yes.
or you know what I'm saying, how to deal with certain situations. But I don't know. I feel like if everybody knew what was going on and knew, like, you know, the rules to how society works, which is the law, then I feel like it would be a better interaction between just people, period. Because instead of going to like how you were saying, you used to be a civil with civil cases. Because some stuff be like so petty, y'all couldn't just sit down and work that out and talk about it. Like it really took for y'all to go to court. Yeah, like really though. So I think if everybody had a better understanding for what's going on, I feel like it would be better, you know, better interaction between people.
And that's my goal, right? Community empowerment. And so it starts with the younger people. If we could now bring, and again, I have children, so if the next generations behind us coming up can then understand what the law is, then we have a better society overall. And so it's my duty, right? I teach, been teaching for 10 years. It's my duty. And I was teaching in the evenings while I was prosecuting, while I was doing everything else, and still do, because it's my duty to educate people. I don't have a choice. I know it, so why should I keep it all to myself? And so that same passion is the very reason that I'm seeking the Superior Court judge seat. I don't want someone who is not qualified, who doesn't know what the law is, just randomly stumble on this position just because it's available. And so it's my duty to continue to serve society. One of the things I want to acknowledge a couple of people, Danny Harrison with the Lovejoy Ledger, he's the publisher. Danny and I, we've been on the same path of educating people for he's been on a separate path. We happened to collide earlier this year, and we formed a union, and we started the Justice Project. And the Justice Project is a series of articles, a series of events where we educate society on what the law is. You can find it on the lovejoyledger.com/justice, and right now we have 5 articles. I've written the articles, and it relates to different areas in criminology and criminal justice. We'll branch into civil law soon, but we're again going to be touring with that. So we have the Justice Tour that's going. So there's several of these speaking engagements that's going on.